All right, it's 8 o'clock and it's time for our virtual happy hour. And I put out there on Facebook just a little bit ago that we're going to taste some IPAs. We've got a guest here, Dennis Powers.
Hi.
He came in and he brought some IPAs. I says, hey, just bring 4 of them. He says, well, I've got like 20 of them. Which ones do you want? I don't know. You go ahead and choose, but we're going to try these out. I don't usually drink a lot of IPAs, but he's going to convince me that they're not what you think or what they used to be. But we're going to take a look at them, taste them. He's going to tell us a little bit about IPAs. Like I said, he's got 4 of them here, and we'll see where it goes.
Sounds good. Yeah, so I grabbed 4 of them. All 4 I like. I brought a Tropical Burn, one of our local breweries.
Fire Trucker. Yes, they're good.
It's a double IPA, very heavily hopped, and a high IBU.
So double IPA, what does that mean?
So double IPA is basically just a lot of hops. There was for a long time. So IPAs started out in England.
Mm-hmm. First off, IPA. What does that stand for?
Okay, India Pale Ale.
India Pale
Ale. And every now and then you'll see an IPL, which is an India Pale Lager, which is just a very heavily hopped lager. But originally they were ales. And the problem with beer is it's perishable.
And it come from India, or?
No, it comes from England. You can't brew beer well in India because it's too hot.
Okay, so it had to get to India.
It had to be brewed in England because it was too hot in India because the yeast will not function above certain temperature.
Okay.
So the beer had to be brewed in England and then taken by ship to India. 6 months trip.
Yeah.
Beer is perishable.
Especially when you have people on the ship.
Right. I imagine there's some of that too. So it did not travel well. So a brewer in England came up with the concept of adding a lot of hops and a high alcohol beer, both of which act as preservatives. So you mix up this high hop, high alcohol beer, you put it in barrels, you put it on a ship. By the time it gets to India, it's a very drinkable beer. And as time progressed, IPAs kind of fell off. And then the microbrew
popular
thing started in the 70s.
Okay.
And in the United States primarily, IPAs became very, very popular. And people started experimenting. So all beer is made of grains, water, obviously, hops, and yeast. That's your basic ingredients. So the hops are there during the boil. If you add hops early in the boil, it draws bitterness out of the hops. So that's why when you get a beer that's like 90 IBUs, IBU stands for International Bittering Unit. A 90 IBU beer would typically be a very bitter beer.
Yeah, that's pretty high.
So that way you know that a lot of hops were added during the boil. So, but now a lot of brewers are kind of getting away from that bitterness because a lot of people don't find that bitterness very pleasant.
Yeah, they want to sell them.
Right, especially to the kids.
Yeah.
Well, over 21. So,
yeah, that would be right.
So what they've done is a lot of IPAs now put very little or no hops in during the boil, so they don't draw that bitterness out. What they do is they add the hops after the boil at flame out, or they do what's called dry hopping, which is basically putting the hops into a sack, a mesh bag.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's actually put into the beer while it ferments. And then you can go one step further after the fermentation. You could do another dry hopping during the...
So at what point would it be where an IPA is not an IPA? If there's not enough hops?
That's basically what it is. What classifies most IPAs is just a lot of hops. It's an ale. So all an IPA is a heavily hopped ale. You could leave the hops out and you'd have a very traditional ale. No big deal at all. Sometimes when you see double IPA, that's just an indication that it's very popular, especially on the West Coast. Massive amount of hops introduced. My brothers and I brew. We recently brewed a hazy IPA, which is basically a West Coast IPA. We do 5-gallon batches. We dry hopped with about 11 ounces of hops. Now, if we were doing a stout or a lager, we'd put maybe an ounce of hops into it.
Oh wow, that's not much at all.
And sometimes half an ounce.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very low. And when you start talking about 10 to 20 times the hops in the same volume, you're talking about a lot of hops.
Yeah.
That's when you're getting into what's considered a traditional IPA.
So, all right, tropical burn from
Tropical burn.
Fire Trucker. And what's the alcohol content on there? Is it,
I think
there it is, 8.5.
8.5.
That's
It is
pretty
high.
good.
So in the traditional, India Pale Ale, high alcohol, high bitterness.
There, I'll give you a glass there.
All right, you take that one, I'll take that one.
There we go.
So
So we can compare these if there's a little bit of, this is a 90 IBU, a lot of hops, right?
a lot of hops. Yep. Not a lot of haze. I mean, it's a relatively clear. It is pretty hazy.
Mm-hmm.
Some IPAs you'll see are very clear.
Give this a try.
The original ones were very, very clear.
Yeah, it's a 90.
Yeah, it's got the bitterness, but it's also got the
I
sweetness.
can smell a little bit of tropical or whatever that is in there.
So that's the mango.
Okay, yeah.
So what they've done is they've added a mango, probably a mango extract or something along those lines, which gives it that extra little bit of sweetness. You still get that real intense bitterness, especially on the back of your tongue, but you also catch that nice sweetness.
Sure, yeah.
So it's kind of a nice balance.
So what else we got here?
So this one is from Liddell Brewing. It's called Wolf Picker. Wolf Picker is actually a tool that's used to pick hops. So I don't know why they call it beer that. So this one is a much clearer beer.
There you go. Oh, yeah, that's... So what does this have for IBUs and ABVs, alcohol?
Okay, and I should have written all this down, but of course I didn't. And sometimes it's hard to find on cans, and sometimes when you get to be my age, you have to take the less stuff. 5.5% alcohol.
Okay.
And it doesn't actually tell you what the IBU is. And I think the reason for that is...
Looking at it, it's probably a little less.
It's going to be less. This is one that was probably... the hops were not introduced early in the boil, so there's probably not a lot of bitterness. But there is a lot of hop flavor because the hops were added after the boil.
Yeah, this is pretty good. It doesn't have the bitterness as the tropical burn, but it's still, I can taste like beer.
Right.
It's still an IPA.
It's a beer.
It's not watered down.
The hops are not overpowering. There is just kind of a nice addition to the flavor of a beer, and that's a much clearer ale than say our.
So what do we got here? Ectogasm or?
So this is called Ectogasm IPA. It's from a brewery called Drecker. In Fargo.
It's got a big Viking on it.
Drecker is somehow related to the Vikings, and I have read the details on the brewery and what the naming came from.
Boy, that's completely different.
This brewery is very similar in a lot of ways to Toppling Goliath here in Iowa.
So you guys can see all the differences in these. Because I've always thought of an IPA. Oh, they're all kind of the same. It's an IPA.
Nope.
And not even close.
And we'll give this one a shot. So, and if you check the nose, you're going to get a lot of hops on the nose.
Yeah, I can taste a lot of hops, but it has an actually pleasant taste to it, where it's not real bitter, but it's still a little more hoppy taste than the what was that? Wolf Picker?
The Wolf Picker?
Yeah.
Yeah. They so these guys kind of like Toppling Goliath. They do a lot of IPAs, but they also do a lot of sours and very odd combinations. And they'll use a lot of hops that a lot of other breweries won't. There's a lot of, most of the hops in the world actually originate in the Pacific Northwest of the United States. Bumper crop out there. But now there's getting to be a huge lot of hop development in New Zealand. So New Zealand is creating new hops.
Yeah.
They're
making a big
new
market
hops all
for
the
it here
time.
lately.
Yeah, so I know these guys have used a lot of different hops that you don't normally find.
So what do they have for IBUs on there?
So, I couldn't find it.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, I could look it up. I use a beer app called.
Oh, there's alcohol, 7%.
Yeah, 7% alcohol, but it doesn't say the IBUs. Which again, it's not going to be real high. You don't get that real strong bitterness on the back of your palate. Most of the hops come right at the end of the boil or as dry hopped. So, and this last one I brought is the Perfect Disguise. It's a double IPA from Dogfish Head.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of those guys.
Yep, they've done a number of really interesting things. These are, and that one's going to be a nice clear ale.
Okay.
And I brought these. I didn't have any more Toppling Goliath. The one I really wanted to bring was Toppling Goliath, Fire Skulls and Money, which, to my money, is the best IPA Toppling Goliath has done.
So they all remember that.
And
Toppling Goliath, Fire
Skulls and Money.
Fire Skulls and Money.
And a lot of people are going to argue with me on that. They think, the Pseudo Sioux or the King Sioux or those, it's Fire Skulls and Money to me.
This is a good looking beer. I like the color of that.
Yep.
I like the smell of it too.
And that one's just a real nice, again, the hops aren't
it's
overpowering. You're drinking a beer.
You're
not slicing a chunk of a hop off and chewing it up.
Yeah.
And these are all, in my mind, these are great summer beers. They're for the most part light, refreshing. We had a conversation earlier. I'm not a huge fan of stouts in the summer.
Yeah.
I love them in the winter, not so much in the summer. I'm more of an IPA ale guy in the summer. Trying to think what else.
A lot of good stuff here. The different types of beers. We've talked about a lot of different beers. We've done a lot of different whiskeys. I've been kind of switching it back and forth. If anybody's tried some sour beers, there's some really interesting sour beers. I don't know if you've got some favorite sours or comments on those.
I have a couple.
Exile's got an
Exile has one. I'm trying to think of the name of the brewery. It's in a Quonset hut down on the south side of downtown.
Peachtree.
Peachtree, thank you.
Yeah.
They have an excellent one. They have one that I will actually choose to drink. Which
I think I've had theirs. In
for
a
sour,
little brown, short, fat bottle.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm not a big sour guy, but theirs is one I would actually choose to drink. These guys, Drecker, they do a lot of sours up there.
Now, where is that brewery? Oh, that's up in North Dakota.
Fargo, North Dakota.
Okay.
Yep. And they do a lot of kind of desserts sours. So they have sours that are themed after pies or different desserts, and they have a lot of not just the sour that comes from whatever organism they use to create sours, but there's also a ton of sweetness and flavor.
Sure.
I haven't tried very many of their sours. My son, who lives in North Dakota, has tried a lot of them. He really, really likes them. He doesn't bring them back to me.
Yeah. Well, I got a lot of empty cans for you.
He probably has a couple. But we'll be going up there again this summer. We were supposed to be going up there over spring break, but things.
Yeah, I got a long, extra long spring break. But anyway, we're gonna finish these off. There's a lot of good different varieties here. Got somebody to drink with, which is all right. All the bars are closed and everything. We're still trying to keep our social distance. But tomorrow night, we're gonna try something different. Last night I talked about a dessert ice cream with some bourbon and coffee liqueur and some Baileys. We'll try to make one of those and make it look nice. And yeah, I like ice cream, and A lot of guys like ice cream. They won't say they do, but I think they do. But if, yeah. But if you add the right things into it, I think it'd be kind of interesting. Thinking of maybe taking the weekend off, come back on Monday with some new stuff. We'll see. I'll put some messages out on Facebook on what's going on and all that. This quarantine is going a little longer. It's probably going to go quite a while. I heard the governor today said that because the restaurants were supposed to open April 1st. Because I had 31st. Well, that's off the table now. Extended it for another week, and it's going to be week by week. I think we're probably going to go past Easter the way this is all going. Regrettably, it's put a lot of people out of work, but we're doing all we can to make this all work. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and finish off our little tasters here, and want to say cheers to everybody out there that's joining us on virtual happy hour, and hopefully you're having a drink of your own, and stay thirsty. There you go. Cheers. All right.
That's just a good beer.
Really good stuff.
So have I changed your mind about IPAs?
I think you have, yes.